Hey everybody, welcome to this new WeWeb webinar. Long time no see, but today I'm with Elyse, who's one of our users. Hello Elyse, how you doing?
Hi, good. Good morning.
Yeah, because for you it's the morning. Actually, for me it's the end of the day. But it's pretty cool to do this across the world. Really cool to have you here. And
Yeah.
today we're gonna talk about you basically and your project, Hello Generalist. Maybe we can begin by just if you want to pitch Hello Generalist in a sentence to explain to people what this is about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Hello Generalist is a platform that helps startups hire for operations roles, specifically contract and flexible short term project operations roles. And these are particularly hard to hire for, especially if you are a smaller business and you don't
Mhm.
necessarily have, a recruiting team or access to talent, or you don't necessarily need or can afford a full-time operations person, but you still need, really experienced help. And so our founder, Shayna, she experienced this herself. She was a startup executive from very early to acquisition. She was a chief of staff at Yelp. And,
Mm.
after the pandemic, we were talking about how contract work is really growing, and there's lots of opportunities for developers and designers to do flexible work, but not so much in startup operations. So startups come to us to hire general ops roles on a short-term basis, and we actually like the magic is that we match them directly to pre-vetted, already qualified candidates who already have startup experience. So instead of them just having to go out and post a job listing, we actually like directly connect people.
Really cool. Yeah. And the thing I like to do, actually, I forgot to say this today to everybody who's watching us, but feel free to present yourself in the chat. And I like to ask people that we invite during this webinar, what was your background and what you're doing now at Hello Generalist? How did you end up there? Yeah.
Oh yeah, a very wiggly generalist story, for me personally. So my background is, uh, let's say, front end engineering. I have about 10
Okay.
years of experience as a front end engineer, but primarily very front of the front end. So
Hmm.
HTML, CSS, design systems. And then in 2020, I quit my job to start my own business, which was a non-tech. I built a personal style coaching program, and I was just like, I need a
Nice.
break from tech. I want to go off on my own and do something entirely different, which was really fun.
Hmm.
Um, but I decided to close that business and started freelancing. So
Okay.
I was doing picking up contract work, did some Webflow work, built,
Okay.
did some like designs, did a pitch deck for a company, just picking up all kinds of. I really consider myself a technical generalist. So I can
Okay.
do. I've touched all parts of this process from like design
Hmm.
to coding, and so I got connected with Shayna as I was doing that when Hello Generalist was really just an idea. And when you're at that idea stage, what you want is somebody to help you, like, how do we make this real, how do we put this out into the world? And so I started working with her on our MVP, which we
Hmm.
just built in like Webflow and Airtable. We were just like, how can we get this out and like see if people even want it? And it
Yeah.
was, it was a real success. We had about 100 operators in the first, I don't know, like month or two,
That's huge.
and
Nice.
it was huge. Yeah, we paid out about 200K to in contracts to operators,
Whoa.
through bookings and that. And so anyway, so then we built the actual like V1, which is what we built on WeWeb and what I'm going to show today. So
Yeah.
a little like
Actually,
weird
if you want
journey.
to deep dive here in Hello Generalist, and how did you get the idea to build it in no code? Yeah, that because no code
Yeah.
is a hard. I mean, I think I discovered with WeWeb is that at first I was pretty sure that startups would be the first to use no code, and what we discovered is that it's not the case. It's mostly SMBs and enterprise because they don't have access
Mm-hmm.
to developers, for example. And
Yeah.
now we get startups to use WeWeb, for example, and no code as a whole. So how did you get to the idea of using WeWeb and yeah, for your
Yeah.
startup?
Yeah, totally. So to we are a startup in the loosest sense. We're fully self-funded.
Hmm.
We're working on it full-ish time, but, not like putting in 80-hour weeks or anything like that.
Okay.
And so we had a really, really limited budget. And so I think you're absolutely right that startups, true startups, like funded startups, right, have access to developers and often money to hire developers. But I would not consider myself an engineer first and foremost, certainly not a full stack engineer. And, you know, even though even though we are like funded, in a startup in that way, like speed was still really important. Like, how do we get this
Yeah.
V1 out here? The MVP helped us show that the business had, viability, but we really wanted to make it a marketplace. We really wanted to make it a product where people could come and
Mm.
actually like log in and use it, and not just be a recruiting, matching system. And so for me as the only technical person and like I was not ready to commit to code. We have a very limited budget, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable like doing, all the database stuff, like building login and auth on my
Yeah.
own. Like, there's
The
just so much
DevOps.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and the security, and like, there's so much that
Mm.
a platform like WeWeb already does for me,
Mm.
and I was just like, I want to get something out in the world that actually works. I like am not interested in like spending all my time fussing with, like code puzzles. Like that's just not where I wanted to be. And so um WeWeb was really the first tool that feels like a viable like web app, like low code solution that's actually like fast enough
Cool.
and like fully functional enough. And so as soon as I found that, I was like, okay, this is it. This is what we're doing. No
Cool.
question.
And which backend are you using? Because I assume you're using a no-code backend, maybe?
Yeah, I'm using Xano. We
Zeno?
actually
Yeah.
looked at Supabase, and I really, really like it, but I'll just be honest, row-level security policies was, like, way over my head, and I was like, "I don't wanna deal with this." But
Yeah, I
I
get that.
yeah. But Xano's really nice. It was
Mm.
really easy, and I think a lot of the, like, plug-and-play functionality with WeWeb was, just made it, like, way, way, way faster for me.
So cool. Nice. So I see that people join. Hello, everybody. Hi, Anton. Hi, Fernando. We have people from Spain. And yeah, again, don't hesitate to present yourself in the chat and tell us who you're from, where you're from. It would be really interesting to see. And I know that all of you are makers at Heart, so maybe we'll switch to seeing the actual products, if
Yeah,
that's
let's do it.
okay. Yeah, so let me share your screen. And yeah, if you can just begin by presenting maybe the finished app, and then we'll deep dive in the WeWeb editor. Oh, we've
Yeah,
got people
okay.
from Brazil. Happy
Ooh,
Thanksgiving from
hello.
the US. It's
Yes.
Thanksgiving. Nice.
Yes, it's our holiday. My husband and I have an entire pie to split between us, so that's what I will be doing
Oh,
after this.
so actually it's the bad day to do this, but yeah, because in
Well,
Europe we
maybe
don't have
people in
this.
the
So
US aren't joining. Yeah, that's okay. Well, that's what the recording is for.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Hi, Fred.
all right. Well, yeah, let's dive in. So, um, this is our staging environment. So you are going to be looking at, we don't have fake data, um, but the real core of Hello Generalist is, it's a marketplace. So operators can log in and see matches that they have to potential jobs, and companies can log in. They can post a job. They can see, who their job, which operators their job has been matched to. So if right now I'm logged in as an operator, so I
Maybe can
can see.
you make it use the whole
Oh,
screen because the window is quite small.
yeah. Oh yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better, I
Nice and
think.
big, nice and gigantic.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so when I'm logged in as an operator, I can see my profile. Obviously, this is delightful test data, but I can share services that I offer, things that I do for a company that you might want to hire me for. So I can share, where I'm experienced, my industry experience, my funding environment experience, and some case studies about some of the work that I've done. And this is one of the things that we are really excited about because we think that a resume just doesn't fully show, especially for an early stage or a generalist role, like what you're really capable of. And so for a company to, a startup to come in and actually see, here's an example of work that I did and delivered. really, really helps them understand how this person could be valuable in their business. We got some testimonials, a little like personal, section. And so as an operator, I can edit my profile. I can, provide information about, the business areas that I have worked in.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I have a match with a job, and I'll show this from the company side in a minute, when I have a match with a job, it will show up here on my dashboard. So I can see the job listing, which is, a fairly standard job listing. We have some ideas about how to make this way cooler, but for now, pretty expected job listing. And then I can submit a proposal. So I can say, oh, Hello Generalist has matched me to this job. I'm interested. I can, submit my answers to the proposal and kind of share, like, these are questions that the startup will actually provide specifically for this role. And so I can submit a proposal for that. And this says, like, I'm interested in this job.
Okay. Very
and
cool.
So, yeah.
And all of this you have built on WeWeb.
Yes, 100%. The only thing that's not on WeWeb right now,
let's be honest,
it's sometimes slow to load this.
Oh, it's a tally form.
It's a tally form. Yes.
I love tally, to be honest. So yeah, I get that.
We do too. And this, well, it's multi-page so that it's not a gigantic long form. And that was one of the reasons. And the other reason was just less to build so we can launch faster.
Exactly. I mean, if you can embed something in an iframe, that's something we want to promote as a company. We don't want people to be like, we don't want to be too salesy and say WeWeb is for everything. We will try to improve all the time because we are also still a small startup. But if you want to use any tool to help you build fast, I mean, the thing is we want to help you integrate it inside WeWeb instead of like forcing you to use WeWeb. That's our philosophy, basically.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the job listing, we would love to integrate that so that the data goes directly into the Zano database. But, again, we're two people and very early. And so there's a lot of things, just like you were saying, we're a small startup. And so there's a lot of things that we can do manually or kind of behind the scenes that we don't necessarily have to fully like build out or automate. And that's definitely one of them. If we are doing like 30 or 100 job listings manually, like, we're having a very successful business. And
but that's
hopefully
something
then we'll be making money.
we're working on, because basically it's a multi-step form, like dynamic form. We've been asked this a lot.
That's hard to build.
That's hard to build, I must admit, but we're working on new templates, and one is a multi-step form. And also with the new reusable components that will come maybe end of year or early next year, you'll be able to abstract this, and then you just have to, maybe you like, the end experience will be like you will use WeWeb a bit like Stacker software. So you will build like your components, and then the end user will just like drag and drop them and pass data to them, So but that's cool. Something that's coming, So in the meantime, using tally is awesome.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm really excited about reusable components. I think, you were talking about startups using WeWeb. I think this is not specific to WeWeb, but in general, I think the place that low code and no code is just now kind of starting to catch up. And that will make, development teams more willing to use it is the kind of ecosystem around it. So, reusability, reusable components, Git, branching. I know you know all of this, but that's the stuff that if you have a team of multiple developers, it can be very challenging to do in low or no code tools rather than in real code. So stoked for those updates.
Nice.
Cool. Okay, so we're back at the company. And again, this is test data. So as a real company, you wouldn't see multiple companies here. You would just see yours, but I have all of the jobs. And so you can see for an active job, this is a role that has been filled and is currently ongoing. And so you can see the person that was actually hired. You can see their contract and their payment tracker. as well as info about the role. For the new job, this is the one that I just applied to. And so you can see here that it's in a state that's like, we're making matches for you. So when a company submits a job, they can go and explore the operator directory. So they can see, you like all my AI portraits, except for
Yeah,
me.
Mid Journey.
Yeah. But they can explore people, but again, we match them directly. And so in this state, we're like, we are talking to operators behind the scenes for you. And
Okay.
so when they're ready to actually see, like when
So
we're ready
this
to
is
actually share
Xano.
that.
Sorry for people
Yes.
that maybe don't know it. This is Xano. So it's a backend no-code tool, and we know them really well. Actually, we're really friends with these people, and it's like a classic stack now, I would say, in no-code
Yeah.
using WeWeb and Xano. And basically, WeWeb is the front-end part. So the visual part of your web application would live in WeWeb. But when you want to store data and make heavy computation, you would do this in Xano.
Yeah. Yeah. And Zeno makes it really, really nice and easy to actually change the data that you're getting back into WeWeb to update your API endpoints. That was one thing that I really liked about it, that I could
Mm.
actually adjust what I was getting so that
Yeah.
the data that I was getting here in WeWeb was exactly what I wanted. And I didn't have to jump through a bunch of JavaScript data manipulation steps to like
Yeah.
make it how I wanted.
Cool. Because do you have an algorithm to match companies and people, or do you do this by hand right now?
We do it by hand right now.
Okay.
So we don't have an algorithm in the sense of anything coded, but we
Hmm.
have some secret sauce in the ways that
Okay.
we connect based on some of our filters and some of the data we have about people.
Nice.
So when Shayna, our founder, does that, she can come in and say, "Hey, our matches for this company are ready."
Hmm.
And then as the company, when I come back here, I will actually see the people who have submitted
Mm.
proposals.
Cool.
And so instead of just looking through the entire directory, I can look at, um, you know, this person, and I can look
Hmm.
directly at their profile, and I can see exactly like the answers to the questions that I wanted to ask them. So it's like a pre-interview vetting step, which is really, really nice for people. And, from companies at this step, we typically hear things like, I didn't even know a person with this profile existed. They're so perfect. Like I could have never found somebody, with this perfect
Cool.
profile.
Yeah. Providing a lot of
Um,
value. Yeah. That's
mhm,
really cool.
yeah. And so they can schedule an interview call with the particular operator that they want to talk to. And
Okay.
then when they have some people that they're interviewing with, they'll see, on their job page something like this. So like they can see who they're interviewing with, they can see other people who have submitted proposals that maybe they didn't necessarily want to talk to. Um, and when they find somebody that they like, they can actually in here just go ahead and create an offer contract. So they
Okay.
can provide all the information, about the specific details of the role, the rate, the price, all that stuff. And then this will actually kick off a flow behind the scenes where we update create a contract for them. And then that will get to this state where they actually have a particular contract with a person.
So cool. Really nice. Really nice to see this. I really like the two-sided, like the fact that it's an actual marketplace, kind of like a
Hmm.
marketplace. So the two-sided things. And I
Exactly.
was wondering how you've done this, like using WeWeb and Xano. Do you have like some sort of roles and permissions to see the screens, or like
Yeah. Let me get to all of my windows here.
no worries?
Actually, get into WeWeb itself.
Yeah, let's get into WeWeb, by the way, because people want to see the real stuff.
Yeah. One second. Can you pause the screen share for a second?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, for the password.
I'm just gonna log in. Yes, I'm not gonna share my password with you on the screen share.
Sadly.
I apologize. Just gonna have to deal.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
Cool. So we're now inside the WeWeb editor, maybe for people that I think everybody in the chat knows WeWeb, but in case this is the WeWeb editor, so that's where you would edit your and create your web app, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here, as I was asking, so yeah, you've got roles and permission and user groups. Yeah, okay, and
Yeah.
you're using
Yeah.
them. That's
Yeah.
really
Just
cool.
very, very straightforward. Company can see certain pages, operator can see certain pages. So if we look at, I've got specific things that the company can see, specific things the operator can see. And a lot of these pages are actually very similar. But of course, I'm not properly logged in. But the operator will see different.
Do you want me to remove the?
No, it's okay.
No, that's okay. Okay.
What the operator will see on a page like this, they're going to see different flags, different statuses, different alerts. And so, each of the operator and the company, even though the pages look very similar, they're getting different data and they're getting different alerts. And so instead of having to do all kinds of like, if it's a company or if it's not, and like have all of those alerts in one page, splitting them out was really easy. And then that can just be managed by the roles.
Yeah, the rules. And basically you're using you're not like, you have the same layout, but it's just the way you bind data to it.
Yeah.
Because like the main thing in WeWeb, or maybe also people I don't know, is that because WeWeb is only a front-end tool, what you do is that you plug it to a back-end tool. So like here, Elyse, that's the Xano plugin, for example. And then you will bind data to it. So saying, here, I want this data from my backend to be the text, for example, or to be a CSS rule, or to be a condition. And this will react in real time. So if you change this data, the WeWeb frontend will react in real time, as developer would do with modern frameworks like React or Vue.js, basically.
Yeah. So this is exactly what you were just saying. Like, this is our individual job. This is coming from the proposals, questions and answers. And so, in different views, especially this kind of stuff, like I'm setting, statuses, conditional rendering statuses on these to say, like,
nice.
only show me this alert when there's a proposal that has been submitted, but the company has not actually scheduled an interview with them.
I love this.
And so, you can, like, they're all, kind of like in here on the page. We're just showing different, in different states. And this is actually something that I really like about WeWeb, is that I don't have to manage a lot of state. Like in React, managing state is painful, and I don't have to deal with that, which is amazing.
Yeah, because basically what we try to do is abstract kind of like the, how do you call this? Because it's been a long time I've done some front end, but yeah, the state basically, which is always like your backend, and all you see like the props here, the formulas, maybe if you have like a workflow that you want to show or something like this, are basically props of a component, then methods. So it's basically like coding a front end, and that's what we want to do. We want to be really close to what developers would do, so that you have like the full. It's really powerful to do web apps in WeWeb, and you can do anything you want, be it like a marketplace. But we've had people during webinars doing SaaS like CRMs or B2C apps. So using these formulas like Excel,
Yeah. And I love that I can do the formulas in a way that is kind of like no code, but I can also do, I can actually like do JavaScript as well if I need to. I don't think I'm doing it here. I think it's in the edit. So in this case, these tags are all in one database. And so I can show it in Xano, maybe, just kidding. So all of our tags for business models, industries, funding environments, they're all in one database. And this was just to keep things easy at the beginning. There's lots of different ways you could do this, but for now, just having them all in one place. But that also means that when I get the information, so like if I get tags right here, they're all in the same, like they're all coming together. So when I want to group them out by business models, by industries, by funding environments,
Okay.
I've actually
Get it.
done, so I have.
That's a really well ordered project. I mean, you're using folders and namings,
Thank you.
conventions. That's really cool to see.
I'm kind of an organization nerd. I don't understand how people can use, like, I mean, this was back in like Photoshop days,
Mm.
like when people had like messy files. Now it's Figma, now it's stuff like this. I'm like, how do
Yeah.
you work when everything is just like div, 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 div? I can't understand it. So
Someone is asking if you could zoom in a bit on screen. So
yeah,
like in your
sure.
browser.
Yeah. How's
Yeah, I
that?
think it would be better. I think
Better?
it would, yeah, much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so with the tags, I'm getting all the tags from the database, and then I can actually just have JavaScript that's like group them, into the 3 different categories, group
Nice.
them by category. And this is just like basic JavaScript data manipulation,
Mm.
which is nice. Like I can do this if I need to without having to overcomplicate my database, or make multiple different tables, things like that. And then, just stick that in a nice little variable. And then in here, I'm only getting, the group that I want. So this was a really nice, like way, way easier than code.
No, that's really cool. I don't know if you guys in the chat have any question, because right now
Yeah.
it see that people are talking about AI. I know all the stuff happening recently.
Yes.
We just have one question from Rubens that I will take.
Yeah.
Is it in your backlog? Use Quasar framework in WeWeb. So I don't know if he's talking to me or you,
I think
but
so.
Quasar. Yeah, so Quasar framework is actually UI kits, and it's really hard for us to integrate UI kits right now. But we are working on new what we call libraries. So basically, I just posted a thread on Twitter this afternoon about all the roadmap, and we are gonna revamp the design system to create
Mm,
what we call libraries. And libraries will encompass your colors, your design tokens, your typography, your spacings, your elements and components, and basically it's preparing the way for the marketplace, because we want to release the marketplace as soon as possible. So you'll be able to create your own UI kits and share them to other people and even sell them. But right now we
oh,
won't work
cool.
on a specific framework, because we want just to work on the marketplace, because we're pretty sure that people are already creating UI kits. And I see that Victor is in
Mhm.
the chat, and I think Victor is working on a UI kit, for example. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I know Chad was working on a WeWeb UI
Yeah.
kit that actually used a couple of his things in here, which was really, really nice. And I think that'll be a huge, huge like quality of life upgrade with WeWeb to have the reusable components and like have that be a little bit more
Yeah.
abstracted. I think, not that you're asking for WeWeb feedback, but I think that's one of the places where uh, low code in general is lagging behind the dev experience a little bit. Is like
Yeah.
I have to go find all these places to update, even though I have a class or a variable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
having that would be really nice.
Yeah, we know that the main thing is that when you have a big project like yours, it
Hmm.
actually you have a great naming convention, but sometimes it's really hard to like debug or find back which variables is used or which formula.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
something we wanna improve also with like merging, using some of kind of like Git commits and
Yeah,
merge. So really being close to the developer world in the end, but visually,
yeah,
But
yeah,
yes, those things are coming. It's just really hard work product wise, but
yeah.
those are
It's
coming.
impressive. What you built is already really impressive. So really excited
Cool,
for those
thanks.
updates. um,
And I think maybe this is for you, but Anurag is asking, what's the best approach to handle the active menu in the sidebar based on the routes? So
oh
I think
yeah.
you've done this pretty well. So yeah.
I hope so. So
I
how
mean, you
how
came to
I'm
the office hours, so it should be okay.
yeah. Um, so what we're doing here is I have an active link state on each of these. So this is like the operator dashboard. This is like, my profile. So each of these has the link to the page. So it's the same element. And then we just have a state with the styles on it. And then the active link, oh my God, I've forgotten how to even get to it.
No worries.
I'm basically just checking where, like, what the URL is. And I've like
yes,
forgotten how to. I did this a long time ago, and I've already forgotten how to get to it.
No worries. But basically, using a kind of we have what we call CSS states in WeWeb, and you have one called active link. And when the link is active, so basically you're on the same page you're linking to, you can change the design. But what's cool with WeWeb is that all of these states, you can actually trigger them using your own logic. You can even bind them to a variable which should return true or false. And so you can use any state you want. So on top of the classic hover, active link, focus. Yeah.
Where even is, I'm like, I can't believe I can't figure out where that is right now. Where do you set the the like URL? Now I
the
feel
URL is
stupid.
on the settings. So the second tab. Yeah, here, links to page. You see?
No, where
Okay.
we're checking the URL to tell if it's active or not.
I think if you use the active link, it's automatic. We check if you're on the same page.
Yeah.
You don't have any logic to do.
Oh, well, I did it checking manually at one point, but
Okay.
I guess here. Oh no, I know where it is. I think it's this one.
For this one, I love this menu, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. This was something that Chad Smith actually helped me design, so credit where it's due. This is what I was thinking of. This
condition,
yeah. So we're actually checking because
nice.
this page, these paths, they're all like an edit profile path, and so we can't just say like edit profile because they're all kind of nested in that folder. So we're using a very specific check here to say, turn this link onto an active state when it's actually on the about page, kind of inside this edit profile. That makes way more sense. I was like losing my mind. I was like, where did I do that?
Yeah, there's some stuff we still need to explain better. We're working hard on the docs right now. But hopefully the community is helping. And yeah, we have the office hours because that's where I discovered your project. And I was actually quite impressed, to be honest. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, office hours is great. Y'all are so nice. You spend so much time with everybody, really like digging into people's questions. It's just great. It's nice.
Cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask you because some people also are wondering if no code is actually worth it. Like you said, for like time to market. But what was your process to get to the final project? Like, did you get to design? Did you get directly into no code tools? Like, how did you get to the final MVP, and how much time did it take you?
So I would say in terms of overall time, maybe like 3 or 4 months,
Okay.
but that's working, not 100% full time on it. And we're also doing, like we were like doing the business stuff, doing design, product vision and discovery, and actually like we kind of changed some of these flows quite a bit as we were developing. And so, one of the things that I think is actually really nice and helpful about no code and about WeWeb or low code is that as we started changing these processes, like as I started building this flow, we were like, wait, actually that doesn't work the way that we want it to work. That actually doesn't make sense given what, like we built this MVP that was very, very basic in Webflow and Airtable. And then as I was building this, Shayna was, making matches. She was making contracts and selling, to companies, and companies were going through the process. And so she was hearing feedback from clients, from customers, and then we were like, wait, we need to actually change how this proposal flow works. And so a lot of what I did, one of the first things that we did was started with kind of conceptual wireframes. So
Yeah.
we're really thinking about like, what might this, and we're like, oh, maybe we can have video, like maybe we can have, case studies, and like people can pull in, press features and things like that. What would it look like to have a really cool form with like different kinds of tags? So we were kind of thinking about what's the concept of this. And then from here, I basically went straight into WeWeb, because one of the things that was really helpful here is we could just make it work, even if it was ugly, and we could actually then go through it and test it and see if it was working the way that we wanted. So what you're seeing now has had a number of visual improvements since, the first place that we got to that was functional, but just kind of hideous. And so once we had, I would build some stuff, and Shane and I would look at it, and then we would go write a long Notion doc with like, oh, here's what the process actually should be. And at some point, I did actually come into thinking about designs. So you can see this is the kind of first visual place that starts to look like what we have in code. And so this was really helpful because it started to give us a shape around the actual process that we had. And then I came back into actually like building it in here. But to the question of like, is it, is like time to build and like time to market really effective with no code? I have to say absolutely yes, because it made it really, really easy for me to flex between like changing stuff in the database, changing the process, changing the pages, going back and changing the designs, like in a way that I think with code was just, so much heavier of a lift, right? Like there's so much more you have to worry about. And with this, it's like, okay, if I change my database, like I don't have to rewrite a whole bunch of code. It's just
migrating it and this kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really, really iterative process. And I think that that's something that no code and low code really excel at.
I love it hearing this, because I feel like you, because I used to learn how to code when I was young, even if I'm a marketer by heart. And hearing that from someone like you that was a developer before, it's really cool, because we have many developers saying that no code doesn't scale, doesn't work, you can't do this, you can do that. But at the end of the day, it's really like the power of iterating fast and improving the product. I mean, you don't want to get stuck, and basically creating CRUDs. I mean, it's my opinion, but creating CRUDs in code, it's kind of boring. So I prefer to do this, in no code.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And, there was just so much that I mentioned this before, I don't consider myself a developer first and foremost. Or really a crafts person, in the sense that, designers, developers who are like, I love the puzzle and working with it and like actually like writing the code and making it elegant and like solving a puzzle. I'm like, no, I just want to make something work. Like I just want it to be out. I want it to be functional. And so there's a bunch of stuff, especially for like, CRUD things and forms and like just displaying and editing. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I just want it to just, go like here's all my data, just like put it in there.
Exactly.
So
and at the end of the day, we want to integrate, like, use the developer best practices, and you have like the REST API plugin, the GraphQL plugin. So I'm pretty sure like the future is kind of a mix of no code, which I would call visual programming, because let's be honest, it's still coding.
It's still
and
code.
Real code, because I think tomorrow, if you have like a complex algorithm and you can't do this in Xano, maybe you will do this in Xano, but you can still create like a small I don't know, like Lambda functions or like that you can code, and then you just have to call it with the API, and like 80% of the app would still be on WeWeb and Zano,
Exactly.
So
And
that's no
that's
problem.
exactly what we want to do with the
Yeah.
matching algorithm that you were
Yeah.
asking about earlier. Like we can just build that and just attach it, right? Like we don't necessarily have to do a whole lot.
Yeah.
But actually, I wanted to answer a question
Yeah.
in the chat about responsive,
Yeah.
because this is another place that I feel like uh, WeWeb made it pretty easy to do a like functional minimum for responsive relatively easily. So, things are flexible and like moving around and like boom, automatically we get the mobile menu
Nice.
and things stack pretty well. It's not perfect, but it was easy for me to just go ahead and get that like in without having to spend tons and tons of time on it. There's always improvements that we can make, but that made it really easy to do that.
Nice, really cool. Yeah, I wanted to get back to questions. So,
Yeah.
the second one is: have you considered implementing a dark theme? If yes, what could be the best approach?
Oh, interesting. I haven't. This is actually, I don't really know. I think this might be a place where I know how to do it in code, especially if you have, like material UI or theme
Yeah.
object or something, you can change all those tokens. I think if y'all are going to release an update with reusable components and, some more like design system
Yeah.
theming and tokens, then it should be really straightforward because you can say
Exactly.
like, this is my primary background, this is my secondary background,
Exactly.
highlight color, and then you just swap the values
Swap
of
them.
those things.
Exactly. We thought about that. Yeah. Exactly. Because
Yeah,
right now you have to bind colors, but you don't really have tokens. So people use kind
yep,
of like they hack their way with
yeah, yeah,
objects with colors, but it's really hard to use. But yeah,
yeah,
with the new components and UI kit, you will just have to, you will abstract these colors. So you will have like
yeah,
one for light and one for dark. And basically you will be able to save the user choice and it will toggle
yeah,
everything
yeah, yeah,
directly.
yeah. And for us, we've been talking about the time to market and like getting things out in people's hands so that we can actually get feedback from real customers. There are some businesses and some use cases where something like dark mode or theming is really, really important. I was just
Yeah.
reading a case study from DoorDash, and they were talking about
Oh,
how important it was to have dark mode because their drivers were driving and doing deliveries at night
oh,
in the car. And so dark mode in that case is actually like incredibly important for your customers. In this case, not so much.
yeah. I didn't know this. Really interesting. I thought it was only for developers because I love dark mode, but yeah, no, but that's really
There are some
interesting.
real use
This, yeah,
cases, yeah.
yeah, no, really cool. And we have one person saying no lockup is key. So I think you're hosting on WeWeb, but
Mhm.
I think it's meaning like the way you can export the app on WeWeb. But
Yes.
for a company like you, it's not a problem right now.
Not a problem right
Mm,
now, but it actually
mm,
is something that we looked into and were really excited
yeah.
about that made me feel really comfortable coming to WeWeb. The fact that I can take everything that I've built, if we get to a size and scale where,
Mm,
you know, we have multiple developers and for, maybe we want to move fully into code. If maybe WeWeb will make that easier to do in the future for like lots of
yeah.
developers with branching and stuff like that. But if we wanted to move into code, the fact that I can export this and have my code base and everything that I've built, and I don't have to completely rebuild this entire thing in code is, I mean, that's huge. Like not being locked in means that that just gave me a lot of trust that I was
Okay.
not going to be wasting my time, right? And then get stuck.
Because yeah, because what you see is actually only a Vue.js app, and everything is a Vue.js component, and that's what we
Yeah.
want to do, like not abstracting too many things. And for
Mhm.
hosting purposes, right now we offer exporting, but it's in our long-term roadmap to actually also link to Vercel, for example, Netlify,
Oh, sweet.
Amazon, Google. Everybody. So
Nice. Yeah, that would be really, really cool because Vercel like is really sweet.
Yeah, we are talking with the Vercel guys because we've done Y Combinator and they've done too. So this
Mhm.
will definitely be live one day.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, we're still a
yeah,
small team, so we have
yeah,
to prioritize. But yeah, it will come.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
Xavier, to answer your question about why go to code, I would love
yeah,
if we didn't ever have to, especially as a, we say we're a startup, but as a small business, like if it's ever, if it's just me, as the technical person or maybe one other technical person, we could totally just stay here.
yeah.
Um, I can imagine though, and again, this totally depends on, WeWeb, how you're building, publishing, committing, branching. But
Hmm.
right now, if you have a team of a lot of developers, it's actually quite challenging to let individual developers work on things in different spaces without running into each other or like having versions or branches and like a commit history. And I know y'all are working hard on that, but that might be one reason that it would be better to fully move into code, because if you're going to scale your development team, you know, there's ecosystem things that are still a little bit more
Mm.
mature,
Yeah,
but you'll get there.
yeah, definitely. We've got questions from Diego, but I think this is for me. Do you at WeWeb think about having a way to publish an app in a dev version to share
Mm,
with peers in the free version? So we were doing this a long time ago, and actually we had abuse of our platform. So many
mm,
people doing phishing platforms or like porn platforms. Sorry to say this,
yeah,
but that
nice.
was what it is.
Yeah.
So we wanted to avoid this because basically otherwise we would get banned by Amazon, and also we don't want this on our platform. So, and at the end of the day, we think that the preview version in the editor is really close to what you get. Is the same thing that what you get on the published app, because this is still the Vue.js app in the editor. It's
Mhm.
actually in an iframe, and when you publish, we just publish this app. So
Yeah.
normally it's really close to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, anything else you want me to share uh,
yeah.
in
Do you
WeWeb?
guys have any other questions or things that maybe you have something you're really proud of, like a complex workflow or I don't know formula or something?
Mm. So it's not complex,
Yeah,
but I'm really proud of the admin tools that
yeah,
I built for Shayna. So, um, like none of these things that happen here are complicated. I'm not like doing, it's just their basic like API requests. Um, but for a non-technical founder, like for her to come into Xano and know that, to make a match between, to an operator and a job listing, when she's, made that connection, like there's like three or four things that need to have happened, right? Like we need to make a record, we need to change some statuses, we need to update some fields. And that's like a lot of stuff to remember and make sure that you get
mm,
it exactly right. And so one of the things that I loved was just like, I can just make this page for her. And I guess it's so straightforward, but it's like, you can just come in here and do everything that you need to do on the business ops side as an admin without ever having to go into any of the database or like code parts.
yeah,
Um, and I think this is like, when you think about like having a real, like an actual business, right? Like this is
mm,
a business that's making real money. And it
mm,
was really important for us to make that actually work for all of our users. And that includes like our internal business users, our internal admin.
mm.
And so I think this is one of the things that I'm the most proud of, even though it's maybe not like technologically complicated. But I think this is what makes it not just like a showcase project, but like a real business.
Cool. Yeah, like having the internal tool with the like user facing tool
Hmm. Yeah,
also as well.
exactly.
Um, I will still have many questions, so I will try
Oh.
to answer them.
Shayna, our founder in the chat, says +1 to the admin tools. I'm glad you like it, Shayna.
She's using it.
Hmm.
Nice. Okay, so Robert Roberto on the community, actually one of our biggest user, any plans to add more events for workflows? Yeah, it's coming. We'll add events like for page changes. We're also adding real time because Xano is working on real time updates, so you will be able to listen to real time changes to your database. So we'll add like events on this, and yeah, definitely like on-page events, for example, or when someone is logging in, logging out. So
Nice.
we're thinking about this, but right now we're really committed on like the new libraries and marketplace. The marketplace is really our number one priority. Yeah.
Cool.
And Victor is asking, what are your recommendations to name elements, variables, and collections for better work experience? Maybe you can answer this because you're really well organized. So if you have any
Well,
advice.
as you can see, I don't actually have a great naming convention for all of my variables and everything. But personally, I would say that keeping them organized into folders is really helpful because then you just don't have a really long list. So, in this case, maybe availability filter isn't the most useful name, but I know that it's related to operator functionality, right? Rather than, logging in or jobs or anything else. Something that comes from, my development background, I think is pretty common is like is or has, like instead of just naming it, like I think the proposal questions form is actually a bad example, but like what this is a Boolean. It's like it has or it is or it's like doing this thing or it's saving this kind of information. I actually have a to-do to go and clean up my variable names because I think they're actually kind of crappy. For collections, I actually kept them named kind of for the HTTP request. So like get profiles, get single profile. This was just a thing that made sense to me in my head that, it wasn't just profile, but it actually was kind of telling me. So like, when I go and load a page, let's see if we can get like, my profile. There we go. Here I'm like, I know I'm getting a single profile rather than just being like profiles or something like, so that was helpful for me. I don't know. Do you have at WeWeb, do you have best practices that you specifically recommend?
Right now, we didn't think about them. We are also like thinking about them as we are working on the new libraries. But one thing would be to stick to either camel case or snake case. When you're using, anything and the way you handle the API calls, I love it. That's what I've done in the CRM template. It's actually creating them as global workflows so that when you use them in your app, you have to change them only at one place and trying to abstract as much as you can and not like duplicating, because that's something I think we have this mindset because we learn to code basically, but for like new no coders, most of the time they will just redo the same thing. But then if your API call changes, you have to redo all the
Every
workflows, for example.
So our save and error snack bar alerts, this is a place where we're doing exactly that. So we have a global workflow to like clear the errors, show them, don't like, we continue to show the error one, and then in like a form page here, I always do that. Like just go to the like button. I can just say execute the snack bar error workflow, and so that if I want to change how it looks or change the text, like I just have one place to do it, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, but again, like the new reusable components will help because they will they will have this own like their own way of working, and you wouldn't have to think about what's inside them. You would just trust the developer who's done them. So
that's nice. The other thing, the only last thing about naming is just like I find it really, really important to safely and like clearly name my DOM structure over here on the
Yeah.
side, right? Like my header, my page layout, this is my content section, this is my sidebar. These are all call outs, even though they're different. These are the different kinds of like sections that are here with the different jobs. Like if it seems like a tedious thing that people don't want to do, but I think this is one of the most valuable places you can spend a little bit of
Hmm.
time is keeping this organized, because as soon as you have to go find something and track down a bug, you are going to be so grateful that these things have names, and it is
Yeah.
absolutely worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't do this enough, by the way, but yeah, it's really important because
It
otherwise
does
you
take
only
a
have
little bit of
divs
time, but it's
everywhere.
so, I know it's terrible. It's so worth it. Please name your DOM. Please name your DOM structure.
Yeah, really. And maybe one last question.
Yeah.
What would be the better approach to deal with a web app which have some canvas related stuff libraries like
Ooh.
Canva.js or Fabric.js? So right now we released the NPM plugin, so you can import your NPM libraries, but with some caveat though. It's on our doc, so they need to be on unpackage.com and they need to actually only work in the browser because we don't have any server, obviously. But for like complex stuff like this, right now, I would suggest creating your own Vue.js components and importing them in WeWeb, and then they can be used as no-code components, or wait for the next release where you'll be able to do
We'll
this
make it way
entirely in
easier.
no-code. Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, I feel like I'm only saying wait for the next release to everybody right now, but the next release would be really huge. So, so yeah, even with a new
Excited
editor
to see it.
design. So yeah.
Ooh, wow. You're gonna like change everything.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we'll manage to do this before the end of your holidays, but otherwise, it will be early
But
2024.
well, we're all so excited to see it.
Nice. Thanks. So, thanks a lot, Elise. Where can we find you and contact you?
Oh, good question. I have abandoned almost all social media platforms, so I guess
Yeah,
you can find me on the WeWeb community board if you
cool.
want to talk about WeWeb stuff. I'm there. I'm also on LinkedIn, just Elyse Holladay. You can also look up Hello Generalist on LinkedIn as well. So that's probably
Cool.
the best place.
And what's the future for Hello Generalist? What are your next steps?
Yeah. I think some of the biggest things, um, I mean, first, we are onboarding operators. We've been doing that for the last like couple of weeks. So we've had like, I don't know, 20 or 30 new people sign up and join. We're getting companies on the platform. So getting feedback from them and just hearing what's
Hmm.
working, what's not working, and really trying to understand from them what big product improvements we could make or what new features. But I think the biggest thing that we know that we're going to want to do is filtering on operators specifically. So if
Hmm.
you are a company, you can go to that operator directory, and instead of just like searching for one person or looking at a whole list, you can actually say, oh, I want people who have had this background, this experience. They're looking for these kinds of jobs, they've
Mm.
worked in this industry, and really let them narrow down who they're looking for and contact people. And I think that that will really improve the sense that this is a marketplace and not just us matching behind the scenes. And so
Okay.
lots of improvements for filtering coming.
Okay. Nice. So thanks a lot. It was really impressive seeing what you've done, and
Thank you.
explanations were really, really awesome. So thanks for
Thank
this.
you. Thank you for
And
having me. This was really nice to get invited.
no worries, that it was really cool. And next week we have another webinar with the guys at FastGen. So it's a new backend who's popping up on the market. So hopefully I will see you everybody next week for our next live. And in the meantime, have a great week and enjoy Thanksgiving then, Elise.
Yeah, we will. We'll go eat some pie. Thanks everybody for coming to hang out. It was so nice to be here.